Okay, so today we are continuing our study of Ephesians. We're going to be studying just two verses, verses 13 and 14, talking about the whole armor of God. And as we said before, we're obviously doing this channel just to try to see if there's anyone out there that's interested in helping create the remnant. We do believe the church age is over. We're not really trying to make names for ourselves, or else we put our names up there. But if anybody liked this and wanted to get to know us, be nice to maybe leave a comment and talk and have a spiritual discussion, as it says in Hebrews, to not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. So we're looking at the internet as a way to hopefully meet some new people. But anyhow, on to the study. Starting in verse 13, says, "Wherefore take on to you the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness." Okay. I'm not sure if we get to verse 14 or not. Oh, actually, no, we are. Actually, most of this will be verse 14. Okay, so verse 13. So how exactly does this verse or these verses tie into what we know as spiritual warfare? Kind of an obvious question here.
Yeah, so it's using like the physical war as an analogy for spiritual war. So if you're a soldier, you got to wear armor to defend yourself. So he's saying, let's use this example to explain how you armor yourself for a spiritual battle.
Yes, I believe that's it. Like sometimes we dig for deeper meaning. I don't think there is. I think that's
it.
Yeah. The only thing that would, if I was to add anything, obviously it would be different armor in the year 2025. It might be Kevlar, hand grenades,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Stuff like that. But so why is it so necessary to see our battle against sin as war?
I think, well, just like war, is incredibly serious. It's life or death. So the spiritual warfare is also, your spiritual life or death. Like, are you going to survive spiritually, or are you going to be destroyed?
Yeah, like if you're in war, you need to secure your borders. You need to keep everybody safe. Your main focus is survival.
Right.
So in the essence of in the battle against the flesh, if you just live your life and you don't read your Bible, you don't try to witness to anybody, you don't take a stand, if you don't actually take these things seriously, then you ultimately lose the war.
Right.
It's an equivalent to being in war, showing up to a gunfight with a knife, as the old joke says.
Right.
Okay, so then the last question for verse 13 is why is it so necessary to see our battle against worldly views as war? Worldly philosophies, worldly thoughts.
Well, I think you got to be humble and realize, that we're all affected by our surroundings. So people say stuff, and everybody says the same stuff, and then it's very easy to just accept that as normal and to adopt those views. Like, you have to actually be vigilant and analyze whether what's being promoted is correct or not. Whether, what's being promoted lines up with God's agenda or not.
As soon as you get the smallest degree of insecurity, or you get this or high degree of acceptance, whatever it is, then it's very. The world has plenty of opinions for their values and their beliefs, and it gets easy to get caught up in it. Now, me personally, this new world that we're in now, I'm not that caught up in it.
Not that tempting.
Because it's really negative. But when I was a kid, the 70s and the 80s, boy, I could be caught. I mean, I could have become more like, I don't even think I could have made it as a Christian if in the 70s, because I think I enjoyed the world so much that I never would have felt a compulsion to learn these truths. So I'm almost glad that I was young, because I'm not saying that the 70s was great. It set the foundation for the sins that created all the negativity that we have now. But the world wasn't negative, and it was unrestrained while being positive, right?
Right.
So I don't get the big thrill of being complaining about politics all the time, or worrying about your health, and addressing every fear known to man. I don't see why that's so compelling, but apparently it is. Okay, now let's look at verse 14. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness. Okay. So one thing I learned in preparing for this study, which I bet you Richard here already knows, what does loins mean?
It's like your upper thighs and your hips.
Yes, yep. I thought, for some reason, I always thought it was like your torso.
Oh, okay.
But it is what you said. Okay, so your loins means the hip, and it is fair to say that your so it's fair to say that your hips are what stabilizes and holds up your physical body. So I thought it was the torso. It isn't, but it's what supports the torso and holds it up. So how exactly does the truth stabilize your mind?
You don't have to come up with what you believe or what you want to think, or have all these decisions to make. If you're focused on the truth, all you want to do is find out what's true, rather than what should I think, what do these people want me to think, what does everyone else think.
Yeah, that's a big part of the stability. Can anyone add anything?
I would say that the truth is also consistent. Like, it doesn't change. Like, to go along with what he's saying, it isn't going to be different next month or next week. So, and it validates itself. So if you learn something true, other truths will validate it. It's not your head's not going to be full of a million contradictions. It's not going to change next week.
Now, Jesus identifies himself in three ways. He said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life." So so it's also eternally true and stable.
Right.
So therefore, it's which kind of ties into what both of you said. Like he was saying, I guess to go with what Ben said, is that the stability of the truth breeds peace.
Yeah.
And it's always there, and it's not something you got to search for in the world and see what other people think.
Right.
And I think today, for some reason, people are now really alienated from the truth. I think people, honestly, because people put what was popular above truth for so long, now I don't even think people are even persuaded by truth anymore. I think they're looking at what their group thinks,
Right.
and then this is more persuasive than reality.
Yeah, I almost think they stop trying to figure out what is true.
Right. And then they think that whatever they see, validates their opinions. I think there's a serious disconnect from the senses, as you can see with the, was it Minneapolis, the murders, is that the place?
Yeah.
You can see people can watch murder on a video and then say, this supports what the murderers did.
Right.
So once the mind gets to that point, then it's not really concerned with truth.
Right.
Right. Okay, explain how the truth is the greatest tool or source for peace.
I think the peace comes from the consistency. Like, if you believe something and you got 5 other things in your experience that contradict it, that gives you a lot of anxiety. But if everything that you observe reinforces something because it is true, then, that gives you a sense of stability, a sense of, reliability, that the truth, can be trusted.
Because the truth is easily to be entreated and it is harmless by nature, it is the essence of what reality is, then just focusing on something that has eternal consistency gives you peace, whereas anything that's contradictory, the contradictory has anxiety.
Right.
And a lot of times I use peace to learn God's will. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm trying to figure something out,
Yeah.
if I'm looking at like 3 different options and I think, okay, maybe this is the answer, I get anxiety.
Right.
I think it's like a God-given
Guardrail.
and then I believe something and then I get an abundance of peace. It's like, okay, that peace,
That's what's the truth is.
yes, I believe that truth and peace have a lot, are closely related. Okay, now explain how the truth is the greatest source for mental stability.
Well, I think all mental instability comes from denials. So when you're believing something that isn't true, your brain has to juggle all these denials.
I've said before, I think to the degree of the insanity is equated to the strength of the denial.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So when evidence is coming at you and you have to keep coming up with denials to block it, that makes you really unstable. Then, what is going to ground you in reality? What's your connection to reality if you deny everything that is coming at you?
Yes, they say that, okay, there's 2 things that create mental instability, and there's 2 things that create mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that fears and denials they both go together in the same token.
Mm-hmm.
Fears and denials, or you could say fears and lies, to the greater degree of fear a person has, and to the greater degree they believe in a lie, then the less mentally stable a person is. And then the less fear, which comes from faith, so then the more faith a person has, and the more truth a person has, the less denials they have, then the more mentally stable they are. So the truth has this beautiful way of overcoming insecurities. And as a Christian, we need to learn to deny self and embrace Christ, which means to embrace the truth. So somebody in the flesh could be really self-confident and have a degree of mental stability, but the problem is when you're confident in self, confident in the flesh, it's not stable either, even though it might be true. You could be the most beautiful human being alive. I saw this woman on Instagram, and I forgot that I was totally infatuated with her as a kid. And totally forgot her name, never even thought of her as a kid, since I was a kid. And she's now an old lady, she's not pretty anymore, right? And so you could get, so if she were to have gotten her confidence from her beauty, that confidence would now be gone.
Right.
And even if you're really smart, if you get confidence from being intelligent, sometimes your brain can rot a little bit. You could be exhausted or something. Sometimes people aren't as smart when they get older, although that does hold up better than beauty. It doesn't always.
Yeah, or the world changes and then all of your knowledge becomes outdated.
Right, that can happen as well. And then, or if you're a professional athlete, pretty much once you hit somewhere between the ages of 30 and 35, your peak skill gets down. But if you actually put your confidence in the truth, in goodness, in virtue, in things that are God's word, then you're no longer connected to the trap of self, and then you actually can put faith in something beyond you. Then you have nothing to fear and nothing to be insecure about, and then that's what creates faith. But as the country's moved away from God, people are trying to get all their faith in self, popularity, and money, and these things don't actually work. Some of them can work to a degree and for a specific period of time, but they're not eternal.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to have complete redemption and complete mental stability is through having a proper relationship with the truth. And my biggest area of faith is in the truth of the commandments, the truth of the prophecies, the truth of reality, the truth in goodness, and the truth in purity.
Mm-hmm.
And then that has led me to have faith in some more supernatural things. Okay. So how exactly does this truth protect you from all forms of deception? There's a lot of cons in the world now. There's a lot of financial schemes. There's a lot of romance schemes. There's a lot of, I guess those two are pretty big. And there's others, there's other forms of deception. There's a lot of political opinions that are incorrect. There's a lot of philosophies that are deceitful.
Yeah, well, I think the truth gives you a standard to compare things to. So, like if you're presented with something, an ideology, and then you say, okay, does this seem true? Then you compare it to other things that you know to be true. And if it doesn't line up, then it'll protect you.
Yeah, to all the strangers that contact me on Telegram, is that going to make me a multimillionaire?
Yeah, it doesn't seem true.
I just don't think so.
If that was true, then everybody would be a multimillionaire.
And everybody would have Telegram app on their phone.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and but yeah, the truth is the greatest source of discernment, and it does protect you from deception, from the power of deception. Deception comes in many ways. From dating apps to social causes to
Politics.
That's what I meant by social causes.
Okay.
To religious doctrine, you name it. And so basically you need the truth to ground you and protect you from deception. And then if you get protected from deception, then you get the gift of discernment. Which is my next question. How does centering your life around truth give you discernment? This should be an easier question.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the same equation. It gives you, a standard to compare things to. So if somebody, is presenting an idea and it contradicts everything you know to be true, then this is not somebody you can trust.
Yes, like I think now people are holding what their self-identity to what they subject reality to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you hold the truth to what you subject reality to, then you get discernment. Right. If you hold your self-identity, then you get what's popular in your group.
Mm-hmm.
If your group is right, then it
You
might,
might get lucky.
yeah, the times when your group is right, then it will coincide with truth. But if your group is wrong, then it doesn't even care about your senses or what is truth.
Mhm.
So basically, if you subject everything to the truth, then you get wisdom, and wisdom is what gives you discernment, and discernment is the ability to compare things to reality.
Mhm.
Oops, I didn't read the next question. I almost answered it. See how well you heard what I just said. How does this discernment give you wisdom?
Yeah, so it gives you an ability to compare, what you're experiencing to reality. If you haven't distorted reality with your biases, then you can accurately compare it.
Right. Okay, so then on a slightly different note, is how does the truth give you more purity? Make you more pure?
Hmm. Well, I guess that, like if you're deceived by something, thinking it could be true, then that is a form of tainting you. You can now be subject to something that isn't good, and that would distort your purity. So if you maintain an allegiance with what is true, then you maintain, a lack of impurities.
Okay, I think this is a good answer, but there's a deeper answer. Can anyone think of the deeper point? I've taught this before. Now, granted, this is me teaching it. This isn't in the Bible. But what have I taught over and over again that is the emotion of truth?
Begins with an S.
Yes. I think someone remembers. If you don't remember, don't worry. It's only been about 50 times that I've taught it. But the 51st time will be the charm, hopefully.
No? Sincerity.
Yes. Yeah, you get to buy everybody lunch for that. So, can you see that point? Okay, I'm not saying there's a verse in the Bible that says this, okay?
Right.
But can you see how sincerity is the emotional expression of truth?
Yeah. 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 What's easier to do, the negative side is anytime there is something untrue, then it's insincere.
Okay, well, what would be another word for sincerity? And almost rhymes with penguin.
Genuine.
There we go. Right. Okay. And so, how does genuineness and sincerity make you pure?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, if you're genuine, then there is no impurities in yourself. If you are just who you say you are, and you believe what you think you believe, then there's nothing in there that isn't a part of that.
Yeah, I think the avoidant mindset robbed millennials and Gen Z of their purity because they got forced into all these fears.
Mm-hmm.
So once you start thinking, well, gee, if I'm nice to you, then these people are going to think I'm weird. Oh, look at that person. How do we know they're not an axe murderer? Gee, these people, who did you vote for? Okay, I don't want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you impure?
Well, because a lot of these things. We'll take like the one. Do you really believe that everybody you don't know is an axe murderer? Do you really believe that everyone that didn't vote like you is evil? Can you really believe that? I mean,
Or what if it's someone that's like totally your favorite type of person?
Right. Then you have to violate your own identity, your true identity, to stick to your imagined identity.
Right. So we're training people into this mindset of avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not only is it alienating us from truth, but it's also robbing people of purity
Mm-hmm.
and promoting a segregated, isolated society.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we had physical segregation in the 50s, you had, blacks weren't allowed to participate in the higher levels of society,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't alienated from any other black, and they weren't alienated from all the whites, because not everybody was a racist, right? Now we say you can only talk to people your own age, you can only talk to people that vote like you. If you have tattoos, maybe you don't want to talk to people that don't have tattoos. If you're a drug addict, then you're never going to be able to talk to people that aren't drug addicts, and people that aren't drug addicts can't talk to people that are drug addicts. Basically, we have all these social rules,
Mm-hmm.
that we keep, because we keep focusing on things to avoid. We keep finding more people to avoid,
Mm-hmm.
and then as a result of that, nobody talks to each other anymore. Nobody spends time with each other. People aren't connecting with each other, and people are afraid of true feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But if we actually focused on what's true, we'd be more stable, and also see the good in people for more. And then seeing the good in other people would make you more pure, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're just simply focusing on problems, I think that's taints you. And I think there's all kinds of other things that taint you as well. Obviously, the swearing all the time taints you. The negativity, the political divide taints you, regardless of what side you're on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the constant judgment of everybody that's different, whether they're older, different gender, whether they're rich, poor. I think all these things rob you of your purity.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, if you could just see people for how they are and connect with people based on love and goodness,
Mm-hmm.
then you would have a pure society.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta find where I was. Okay, discernment give you wisdom. How does the truth give you more purity? Okay, if we are obsessed with if we as a society are obsessed with what's popular, how does this alienate you? So how does obsessing with what's popular alienate you from the truth?
Well, I think because you've picked a different criteria for what you're going to believe. So what I choose to believe, if it isn't based on whether it's true or not, if I decide it's based on what other people think, then it's just if you get lucky or not. If the group happens to believe something true, then
We can see on the political divide on both sides. Like if you look at the left, you had with the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, we had this idea that everyone's being discriminated against, everyone's being oppressed, and every time someone got arrested, it was police brutality. Then you look on the right, and then Trump was obnoxious in the debates, becomes popular, then it's okay to sue the government for $10 billion, it's okay to murder people, it's okay to lie, it's okay to cheat on your wife, it's it's okay to...
you start justifying everything that the group has endorsed.
Right, and so basically, if you're obsessed with what's popular, then you get into a group, and then when that group is wrong, you can't see it.
Right.
And then you can't see it gives you anxiety.
Right.
And people want to think that what I want to think is reality is, but that isn't necessarily what reality is. Reality is not subject to what you want to think.
Ever.
So if you don't want to acknowledge the truth, like say you don't want to acknowledge that it's immoral to take a $400 million gift from a foreign country, let's say, okay, then you won't be able to how do we put it? I lost my train of thought. You won't be able to discern what is good. Now the next time somebody takes a bribe, you're not going to have the same convictions towards it.
Yeah.
Like when we learned in the 90s, Bill Clinton cheating on Hillary over and over again. Before Bill Clinton was president, the country was morally convicted against adultery.
Right.
Then after the Monica Lewinsky thing, we're not.
Right.
So I think now we're not going to see bribes to be
A problem.
bad or immoral, because we're not focusing on what's true, we're focusing on what's popular. And then you can see it also in the entertainment world. If somebody is popular and a singer or an actor that everyone likes, and they say, I don't like old people, or I don't like young people, then everyone's going to say, oh, it's not cool. Okay, boomer, we're going to discriminate against older people. Or, if the tattoo, if someone's really famous and they get tattoos or they become really immodest, then we lose our convictions against modesty. And so you can see it in the entertainment world, you can see it in the political world, and these are the things that are shaping the mindset of people. So trying to be obsessed with thinking yourself is cool and you're in with what everybody else likes destroys your soul and it alienates you from the truth. And it's more so now than any other time, because as we move away from the original Christianity, then what's popular is less true than what was popular before. Okay, so how does political activism alienate a person from the truth?
Well, I think when you become an activist, you start defending every platform issue that the political party believes. So if the party happens to believe something that isn't true, then you're stuck endorsing it.
One thing I've noticed, the intelligent people that do this on both sides, they've become lawyers. And so they're just looking for something
Evidence
on their side, like a lawyer does, to defend their client.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how lame the argument is.
Right.
And
They got an arsenal.
but why is it? Why is it that if you pick a political side, you alienate yourself from the truth? Why can't that side be right?
Well, because you're subjecting it to people. People
There you
want
go.
the ultimate truth. So people come up with an opinion, and then you're just stuck adhering to that because you've chosen that to be your allegiance.
Right. So I think that politics has replaced religion in our society, and I think religion was so much better because you had a book that was chock full of truths,
Right.
and you had God. Now, even though not everybody understood the truths
Yeah,
perfectly,
you still had people interpreting it.
yeah, people were interpreting it. Their interpretations weren't always correct, but their source was correct, whether they were correct or not.
Right.
So at least if you always had the correct source, then you always
Had
had
a lot better with luck.
right. Whereas now we're putting people as gods, we're putting political platforms as gods, and what I mean by that is that we're subjecting everything to a political persuasion,
Right.
which is during a Christian time, we're subjecting everything to a commandment. There's a big difference between a commandment and a political persuasion.
Yeah.
And so I think it's impossible to be a political activist and have a mindset of truth.
Yeah.
But if you were going to have the mindset of truth, you would have to be more of a moderate in this environment,
Yeah.
because at least a moderate can see both sides. But even
Right.
them are still men and women, and they're not 100% capable of discerning the truth, even if you're trying to be reasonable. If you're the most mentally sound, intelligent person in the world, not all of your thoughts are going to be 100%
Right.
true. So if you actually know this, then you should know that supporting a political figure, no matter how righteous or wonderful you think they are, it's not going to be 100% accurate.
Right.
Okay, now our last question before the bathroom break. How do all forms of social discrimination disregard the importance of the truth in general?
So you're no longer looking at people for who they are, who they actually are. Just looking at whatever group they're in that caused you to discriminate.
Yeah, like one thing that happened in our group is like we had a lot of false accusations against us, like 20 years ago. And I was patient and I said, okay, once these kids become adults and they see that none of what they accused us is true, that they'll become Christians and we'll all be united. That prediction was wrong. Why?
More focused on the truth.
Because they were more obsessed with the social discrimination than the actual truth itself. So if we didn't gain any popularity because of the false accusations, then it doesn't matter if
If it was true or not.
if 20 years goes by and none of the false accusations came true. That doesn't matter. What matters is what is the popular perception amongst the people that are discriminating.
Mm-hmm.
And so if everybody that's discriminating is still united against you,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't matter if there's no proof to support what they're actually saying.
Mm-hmm.
They still hate you.
Right.
So I think that all forms of social discrimination have a similar pattern, that you can't. Sure, there are some truths to some stereotypes, but it's not appropriate to always look down on every stereotype, every bad experience that you've had with a person and label everybody the same way.
Yeah.
I think I think the social discrimination of the past 20 years has been a huge impact on the loneliness epidemic and the isolation culture.
Yeah, I think a lot of, say, liberal-leaning people are aware that this is a problem with races. Like, they would be against racial stereotyping, but they maybe don't realize that that's not the only area.
I think the liberals have caused more of the social discrimination than anyone until Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trump, well, like I heard people say, what the liberals do, like this degree,
Mm-hmm.
Trump is doing
Yeah.
to like this degree.
Yeah.
But the liberals basically, by creating this platform that everyone is being discriminated against,
Mm-hmm.
creates an implication that everybody's bad, that
Right.
everybody's out to hurt everybody, that everybody needs protection from all these evil people in the
Mhm.
world. And then by having this belief that there's all this discrimination and all these people are bad, then the isolation becomes a righteous cause. It becomes a cause that I am a victor. And then they would say that we're against racial discrimination, but are they actually becoming friends with black people? Are they actually,
Mhm.
like a lot of the discrimination, people would get on a soapbox and attack people and not do a thing to be close to the people that they're saying that they take a stand for. Whereas during the civil rights era, when people took a stand,
Yeah.
they didn't just take a stand. They actually became friends. Like
Right.
the marches in the 60s, the Martin
Yeah.
Luther King marches, some of these white people that went in the marches
Right.
then became friends with Martin Luther King, became friends with other black
Yeah.
people, invited them in their house, and some of them people, that's when we started getting marriage of different races. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
in the 2000s, people want to take a stand on YouTube, and then meanwhile they're not persuaded by you. Like one of the things that the Israelis said that I think is true, that we don't know the exact numbers of people that died in Iran, but it could have been as low as 7,000 and it could have been as high as 40,000. But regardless of the figure, let's say it was 25,000, because in the war in Gaza, we had 25,000 people, approximately 25,000 people died to date, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of the Jews are saying, Why doesn't anyone care? There was 25,000 people that died in 3 years, and this is genocide, bad. And then in Iran, it's 25,000 people in 3 weeks, and nobody cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason being is because they didn't have TikTok in Iran. They did not have. It wasn't cool. It wasn't popular. It didn't get likes on Instagram, and there wasn't a movement. So
Right.
I submit to you that 80% of the people in the movements don't even care about the cause that they're supporting. They're
Right.
just thinking that it's going to get them friends and make them look
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, they call it armchair warrior.
Armchair warriors. And then I think that the social discrimination of finding flaws in every single aspect of society, flaws in this generation, that generation, this political opponent, flaws in people that live over here, flaws in people that live there, flaws in people that earn this much, people that don't, flaws in people that buy this product versus people that buy that product, so on and so forth. This constant looking for danger and flaws in everybody is the social discrimination of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And it is actually, it causes people to not focus on truth. It creates loneliness, which is destroying the soul of society. Okay, so the next word for the day is breastplate, which is what I thought loins were, which is what we know as the torso. Okay, so how does righteousness do for your soul what, protecting your torso does for your body?
I think. Go ahead.
Like you lead with your torso, like you should lead with righteousness.
Yes. Yeah, lead with
It's
righteousness.
also like the core of your person.
Yes, I like that point even better. And having on the breastplate of righteousness is like your core. And what is in that core that is often used in Scripture in the Old Testament and the New?
Your heart.
Yes. Yep. Yep. So your torso is where your heart is, right? And it's the foundation of of your actions, of who you are. Okay. Why is righteousness necessary for a meaningful life?
I think righteousness, in a way, is a product of your love for other people. So if you don't have that love, then you're just obsessed with yourself, and there's no happiness in that.
Yes, and righteousness is the prize of life too. It's what creates happiness and goodness and joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a righteous person and you're trying to inspire that in others, that's what creates meaning in life. Whereas every self-destructive behavior creates a degree of emptiness.
Yeah, it said, you reap what you sow. So if you're sowing righteous things, that's the kind of life you're going to have. If you're sowing corrupt things, then you're going to experience the corruption.
As we say, the church age ended around 67. And so one thing that we see is that a lot of the sin gets enticed or motivated by righteousness, and people don't realize it. And then as each decade comes, because a little leaven leavens the lump, there's less and less righteousness. So you end up compromising your integrity to be popular.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're popular, then it's okay to be good. But then what happens is then eventually being good, you don't get the same fellowship, the same warmth.
Mm-hmm.
So then now the popularity doesn't have any feeling to it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
But the real meaning of life comes from the righteousness regardless of how it comes.
Mm.
Okay, so. Okay, now this one should be the easiest question of the day. Why do we need righteousness to be a good person?
Well, ultimately, anything good that you do is going to come out of some form of righteousness. If you don't have any righteousness, then you aren't going to do anything good.
Right, righteousness is the essence of goodness.
Yeah.
Righteousness is the essence to a meaningful life. Righteousness is the essence to our faith. So everything that's pure, holy, and good, it has its root in righteousness. So what exactly does it mean to be righteous?
I think, like I said before, it's based on love, but you're generally, you're looking for truth and love, and you're looking to, like, fulfill that with your actions. So you want to do what's best for other people. You want to, like, make people happy, but then, like, there is righteousness, which all the commandments are based on love too, so I guess it all just comes together. But I think there's a degree of righteousness you get that, like, might not come from an emotion of love, but come from, like, trying to follow God. Like you might not feel compelled to do every commandment. People have different strengths.
So what it means to be righteous is basically to do God's will, right?
Yeah.
It's to obey the commandments, separate yourself from the world, and put the golden rule above everything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is the relationship between righteousness and self-denial that Paul teaches us?
Well, in righteousness, you're focused on the greater good, what you perceive to be, immediately best for you might not be what's best for you in the long term, but it might not be what's best for the group or for others. If you use a food analogy, you get a big plate of food and everybody else has nothing. Are you going to split it up 4 ways, or you're just going to eat it all yourself? So, the selfish thing is you're going to keep it all to yourself. The righteous thing is to share it with everybody.
Right, and then sharing with everybody is a form of self-denial.
Right.
If you're really righteous, you might
just
give
give
it
it
all,
all away.
and then they might share it back with you, right?
Right.
And but needless to say, the righteousness and self-denial are kind of one and the same,
Yeah.
which is the mystery of the faith,
Mm-hmm.
is overcoming self.
Yeah.
And so then the way that our world is structured now, it is self-promotion is what people think is what creates a meaningful life.
Yeah.
How does a blank So how can you recognize righteousness in another?
Like on a basic level, you can just see if it lines up with if their actions line up with the Bible and what God teaches. But then, like, on an emotional level, you can see, like, when someone's doing an action out of love.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, like, are they generous? Can they make a sacrifice? Do they, suffer for somebody else's benefit?
Yes, so now I'm looking at the... Okay, the next question is, how does our society's obsession with a self-image destroy or detract from righteousness? So we just talked about how there's a connection between self-denial and righteousness.
Mhm.
So how is like trying to promote a self-image the opposite of self-denial?
Well, no, first off, like if you are preoccupied with your image, then you're not really like that whole idea of having an abundant eye. You're not really looking at the needs of the people around you. You're just looking at what's going to make you look good. And if making yourself look good happens to overlap with doing something good, then you get lucky. But most of the time, it doesn't.
So if you're a Christian, would this mean that you should shut down the largest construction project in America so that you can have, in exchange for having a couple of train factories named after you? Is that what the Christians should be admiring, you think?
It doesn't. I can't pick. I can't think of anything in that scenario that sounds righteous.
Is that a form of self-denial and righteousness?
And I can't see that in any of that.
Or is it possible that the Christians aren't actually reading Ephesians, maybe?
They might not be, but even if they are, they're looking for something in there that will justify their position.
Yes. Like I said, I've always believed in the Bible, but I've never been a big fan of the organized church. Okay. But yeah, I don't think Christians have any convictions at all against promoting a self-image.
Right.
But the essence of Scripture is to deny self, is to crucify the flesh, to die to self and live to Christ.
Right.
So we should not, we should try to convert people that are obsessed with a self-image, but we shouldn't be trying to exalt and think that it's godly to obsess over a self-image,
Mm-hmm.
when the essence of our faith is self-denial.
Right.
So how does fame kill righteousness? Or detract from it?
Well, like the verse says, whatsoever is highly esteemed amongst men is abomination to God. Generally, the world does value self-promotion. The world does value, being rich or having everything you want.
And telling people what they want to hear.
And telling people what they want to hear, right? So if, in order to be that popular, you have to kind of, abandon God.
Yes. Now, how does political activism detract from righteousness?
Well, I think the number one way is by demonizing the opposition. Like everything on the other side is an enemy. How do you love your neighbor as yourself if half of them are your enemy?
Okay, there was someone I talked to this week, though, that was not demonizing the enemy, was taking a stand for the right cause, and I think that it was also destroying this person's righteousness, even though they were correct. How could that happen?
Well, I think it could happen if your mind gets preoccupied with all of the problems in the world, and you stop focusing on, the good of people and the good that you can do, and the good that you feel for your neighbor.
Right, so political activism is not just destructive because the leaders aren't God and they're capable of making mistakes. It can be destructive even when you are correct, even when your position is correct and what you're focusing on is correct, because it isn't grounded in love.
Right.
And the if there is a problem in the world, like the problem with the xenophobia or the problems with fascism or what have you, or the problems with the constant belief of discrimination or whatever, you don't fix that through politics, even though people think you do.
Mm-hmm.
You fix that through changing people's hearts.
Right.
And so if nobody's hearts are changed, then you just got to hope that we survive, the rest of this New Testament captivity period, which is the most likely result.
Mm-hmm.
But there was never a time when politics actually was the facilitator of a revival and the change of people's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, politics could give people the freedom to practice their religion, but it was the religion that changed the hearts. It wasn't, they freedom that changed the heart. So the freedom is important,
Yeah.
but it was the actual religion. So name a few acts of righteousness. Okay, so the last question of the day is name a few acts of righteousness that all Christians should do.
Well, number one is, thing like somebody here did this morning, being a good Samaritan. Like if you see somebody in need, you have to put aside your agenda and help them.
Yes, we could tie that into the golden rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, number two is to be able to proclaim God, like to witness to people that you care about, and to defend truth, to defend.
To confess Jesus before men and
Yes.
to take a stand.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think those are the two biggest.
There's one lesser than that that's more obvious than that. You might need your glasses for it.
Oh, just like reading the commandments.
Yes. Yeah, reading the
Reading the
Bible,
Yeah.
praying.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we will continue our study on the armor of God, and we'll close here. Dear God, I pray that you help keep us in your remnant, that you build upon the remnant, and that you give us the increase of joy and love in the Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.